Hello my loves and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a very interesting video because I wanted to record a video talking about my pregnancy this time because it is a lot different to my pregnancy with Ivy, and it's because it was a high risk pregnancy. And you know, when this was meant to go live, I was going to record the intro in real time, and I'm meant to be 35 weeks and I'm not pregnant anymore. I've actually had my beautiful baby girl. She decided to come very early at 34 weeks. And so I still want to give you this video because it's such a great insight into how I navigated a high risk pregnancy and got through it, because it is kind of like the worst that I thought could happen did happen. And so I'm just really glad that I was mentally able to get through it in a really great mental state, because the worst did happen and I'm here and I'm fine. And baby girl is fine. Of course, I will update you guys with a birth story and everything in the next vlog. I honestly still need time to process because it was wild. It was an emergency. It was very full on. And if I try and talk about it now, I'll just like end up crying because yeah, it was really, really full on. So enjoy this video. Before we get into it, I do want to say a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring my channel. You guys know I am such a fan of Squarespace, and basically if you don't know what they are if you want to have a website, grab a domain, and if you want to have a space on the internet, they make it really, really simple to build out your website. I'll put my website here. This is my very first website when I sold my Find Your Healthy ebook. It was like the thing that started my career from an influencer to a business owner. And as you guys know now, I have Naked Harvest and Rise and Conquer, which are 2 7-8 figure companies. And so this site and like this ebook, which I thought was kind of like not that exciting and not, you know, that pivotal, was actually so pivotal from me seeing myself as an influencer to becoming like taking myself seriously. And so if you want to start taking yourself seriously, having a website, a like spot on the internet where you can sell your things, you can do vlogs, you can do blogs, you can, you know, have people buy your things and it's not controlled by the algorithm, is so important. So Squarespace makes it so easy. Like I said, this is my website. They have AI tools so you can do all the graphic design and make it super cute, girly, whatever is your style. They also have not plugins. They also have like a back-end system to taking payments, and also for electronic downloads, which other domains and other website things don't have. So for example, if you go with another provider, you will have to pay for a plug-in to do a digital download, where Squarespace, it's like completely free. That's why I chose them when I did my first website. And so highly recommend for that. And also you don't have to be tech savvy. That's what I say. Like I wasn't tech savvy. I figured it out. So I do have a code for you guys. I will chuck it here. I'll put it in the show notes. You can check it out. But basically, I'm just had a shower. I went 6 a.m. this morning to see my gorgeous daughter who is in the NICU. Came home. It is about 10 now. I just had to have a shower, get a bit sorted, and then we're going back up to see her. We are visiting her 2 to 3 times a day, doing some breastfeeds, and yeah, it's really full on at the moment and emotional, but we're getting through it. And you know, I truly believe life happens for me. So even though this is not what we planned, the pregnancy was not what we planned, I have to trust that this is it. Also, guys, my boobs are huge. The milk has come in. My supply has been amazing. But I, of course, will do a video on that. But I hope you enjoyed this video all about moving through a high-risk pregnancy. Now I'm like finished, and on the other side, I can like positively say everything that I recommended in this made such a difference for me, feeling safe, secure, and strong. Because like I said, the worst case scenario literally happened. And the fact that I like mentally, yeah, it's hard, but I'm like showing up like this and moving through this and navigating this is definitely a testament to, you know, what I talk about in this video. So I hope you love it. Like I said, I will update you fully in my next vlog with everything because it has been a wild ride. And I just want to say thank you for the love and support. Love and adore you guys, and I hope you enjoy.
There has been a lot of things to process with my birth plan with my second daughter. So with my first daughter, Ivy, we had a vaginal birth. I labored, I think it was for a good 17 hours. I was 7 centimeters dilated. And then I had this kind of euphoric experience where very quickly, the backstory, when me and Tim first found out about Ivy, we were in Uluru on a holiday, and it was the most magical holiday. Still to this day, it was my favorite holiday. It's so sacred there, and it's so beautiful. And I was getting a massage, and it was the day before I could take a test. And my massage lady said, "Oh my God, you're pregnant." And I was like, "Oh, really? How do you know?" And she said, "When I was massaging you, I got this vision of this vision in Aboriginal culture, there would be women's ceremonies and men's ceremonies. They would do them separately." And she said there was this women's ceremony where basically they were calling in this spirit baby for you, and I think you're pregnant. And so the next day I took the test. I was pregnant. It was like obviously incredible after a year of infertility. So that was like super, super special. And it's so interesting because we birthed publicly at the Gold Coast UD Hospital, if you know the Gold Coast area. And in the rooms, the walls are painted. And, you know, they have the bath, they have the beds. It's very set up very well. And the room that we got put in, the birthing suite, was actually Aboriginal art on the wall. And I remember getting in there and being like, oh, wow, that's so beautiful. And when I was laboring and I was 7 centimeters, I went into this kind of like euphoric hallucination. And she was posterior, so I was in a lot of pain, and I kind of take that as I was trying to go. I was in a lot of pain because she was posterior, and I started having this hallucination that I was in this woman's circle and she was ready to come in and I was calling her in. And and this is how much I believe like our mind and our subconscious mind controls our body and all our workings within our body. And we know that. But basically, I started bearing down, which you're only supposed to do once you're fully dilated. And so I remember I started bearing down. Basically, just feels like you want to poo. And it feels good too. Bearing down feels good. It feels like your body knows it's towards the end. And I started bearing down. I looked over to the nurses and they were looking at me like, oh no. And they were like, no, you're not fully dilated. Like you need to stop bearing down. And so it was half an hour of bearing down. And then I started bleeding, and that was actually Ivy's head banging on my cervix, pushing her. Doctors rushed in and they did say, you have to go for a C-section. We don't want baby to be in distress. But her heart rate was okay. And so I said to them, is there anything else we can try before that? And they said, you could get an epidural, see if that calms you down. If not, you'll have to get a C-section. So I got an epidural and straight away stopped bearing down. I could control my body a bit more. And then she came out literally an hour later. So that was, again, it's not like the most textbook birth, but I don't know, it was such a beautiful experience. Pushed her out, straight skin on skin. It was amazing. Tim was with me the whole time. It was just incredible. And so I always just thought I would have another vaginal birth with this baby. My mum also has had 4 kids, all vaginal births. All my sister-in-laws have all had vaginal births. The only people I know who have had C-sections are emergency C-sections. And so their stories are a little bit scary. That's the only experience that I had been told about C-sections. Going back, that was always the plan. We did decide to go private this time because we do have private health cover. And it was just like this intuitive thing where I was like, we did public. It was incredible. Couldn't recommend it enough. But then I was like, I think I want to try private and just have one doctor throughout the whole thing, et cetera, et cetera. And at our 20-week scan, previous to that, my doctor, my OB, I am seeing Drew Moffrey at Pindara, a private hospital, and he had mentioned like I had placenta was over the cervix, but he continuously was like, oh, we don't have to stress. It usually just stretches up. And I honestly just didn't really take notice. And then at the 20-week scan, had the scan, and then we had our follow-up appointment with him. And he basically explained that I have a condition called placenta previa, which mine was grade 4 because of how much the placenta is sitting over the cervix. And he explained that this is considered a high-risk pregnancy. And if it's still sitting, if the placenta is still sitting on the cervix, I would get continuous scans, but closer to birth, I would have to get a C-section and possibly come in for bed rest because of how serious this condition is. Because basically, if you go into, this is my understanding, obviously I'm not a medical professional, but if you go into spontaneous labor with this condition, the baby's head descends onto the placenta, and then you get something called a placenta abruption, what you can get, and you can have internal bleeding, and obviously super high risk for mum and baby. He said that, and I was like, okay, all good. Told Tim, told my parents, and obviously a little bit scary and a little bit like, oh, okay, never had any issues with my pregnancy with IV. But also I was like, it's fine. It will lift up. I'm not too worried. I'm going to give it my attention. Throughout this time too, I was still doing my pregnancy meditations on the Rise app. A couple of weeks ago, I had some bleeding. And so at that 20-week appointment and my follow-up ones, he said, any sort of bleeding, come to the hospital straight away, especially pink, like bright pink. Come to the hospital straight away because it's not good. Once you start bleeding with this condition, you don't have a long amount of time before it is life-threatening to you and baby, mostly baby first and then you kind of thing. And so I had a bit of bleeding. I went straight into hospital and it was just a little bit too. It wasn't anything crazy, but I just am conscious that that's what he said. So I went into hospital. They did all the checks and he wasn't too worried. He was like, "Him had sex." And I'm like, definitely not. In the last, 24 hours or 48 hours. I'm like, absolutely not. And he was like, well, he's like, honestly, that would make me feel better because there would be a reason. The fact that you just got spontaneous bleeding isn't the greatest sign, but also that's okay. I had a scan at the hospital and the scanner picked up quite a few blood vessels around the cervix. And my doctor was worried that I also had this other more rare pregnancy condition called vasa previa. And it's basically my understanding, I'm not a medical professional, is the blood vessels of the umbilical cord of the baby are on the outside, not on the inside. And so again, if you go into spontaneous labor, the baby's head descends and pushes on them. It can break these blood vessels. And with that condition, it's very serious to the point where baby has 20 minutes and then it's the worst possible outcome. And so he said, if I have that condition, I will have to come in the hospital and bed rest that week kind of thing. So I got another scan and it was very lucky. I don't have that rare condition, but obviously it was like a week of waiting and not knowing and kind of freaking out by it all. And also just being, oh my God, it means I'd have to sit in hospital for 5 or 6 weeks, which is, if you have a toddler, It's just the thought of it was too much. We have had the last scan at the 33 weeks, which is like the last week when you get the big scan. And my placenta is still a grade 4 sitting over my cervix. So I don't have the rare condition. So that's almost like, thank God, but I still do have placenta previa grade 4, which means unless it does like a miracle and shifts up 4 centimeters in only a couple of weeks, I have to get a C-section. Also, it means I have to go on bed rest for probably 2 weeks before my C-section. Again, because if I go into spontaneous labor, which obviously can happen from 30. And so basically I do have to go on bed rest for a couple of weeks before the planned cesarean. And this is just to be precautious because again, if you go into spontaneous labor with this condition, it's just, you don't have a lot of time. And I live 20 minutes away from the hospital. And so he said, by the time you get to the hospital, could be traffic. He's got to get there. They've got to get me prepped for the cesarean. If it's longer than an hour, it's detrimental to me and the baby because I'm internally bleeding. So he's like, it's not worth it. You come and sit on bed rest. So it's like any blood, anything, you're prepped, you're ready. We get you straight into theatre. So that's obviously a bit scary and a bit concerning. And the thought of spending 2 weeks away from Tim and Ivy just before such a transitional time for her. So it's like 2 weeks. Obviously, they'll come and visit me every single day, but 2 weeks without mum putting her to bed and then she comes home with a newborn. It's just, yeah, it's been hard to process. And for me, the C-section was at 20 weeks. I was processing that a lot because, again, like I said, I always just thought I'd birth vaginally. But I feel like I've come such a long way with that. And I'm so accepting and almost excited to have a different birth experience and for it to still be really, really beautiful. And I'm going to share those mindset shifts that I've been making. So I feel like I've come to peace with that and I will share that in the moment. But I think what I'm still processing right now is spending that 2 weeks away from Ivy and Tim. Again, it just feels like such a pivotal, transformative time. And I feel really guilty. I feel really bad that, Ivy doesn't get her mum for those 2 weeks before such an important time. So that's the update. That's me just being very raw and honest. That's where I'm at. It's been a lot. It's a bit of an emotional roller coaster. But again, obviously so grateful that they've found this condition because if it does go undiagnosed, it has really, really dire. It can be worst case scenario. Very grateful they've found it. Very grateful I've had time to process and I'm with the same doctor and he's very onto it. He's been great. I also have quite a few people who've been through the same doctor and said he's amazing. And also been talking to a lot of women about cesareans and whatnot. So that is the personal update, not what I thought this birth would be and how this baby would come into the world, but I'm really surrendering into this primal, powerful version of me that it gets to be different and it gets to be okay, and trusting my body and trusting this is all better than I could have imagined. That's something I preach to you guys, that if things are going a certain way and you still feel regulated, you still feel like you've been showing up and putting in the work and things are just going a certain way, you have to trust that it's for a bigger meaning, that it's for a bigger reason. And even if you cannot see it right now, it is what's best for you. It is what needs to happen. And, I can't help but think it's like this all needs to happen so the worst case doesn't happen. That's how I've been doing it. Emotionally, I've just been really allowing myself room to have both gratitude, like so much gratitude that I know about this, that I have an amazing care team, that I did go private, I have the same doctor, that I have people around me who are so supportive, how incredible that my husband's a stay-at-home dad. So really like me staying in hospital for 2 weeks, it's not the biggest deal. It's not like he works away or he's got to work and I've got toddlers at home. Like we really are in the best case scenario to make this work. And even though it's not what I would like, it is like I am still grateful that it's not the biggest deal. Like we can move through it, but also holding the duality of I'm allowed to be really fucking disappointed, and I'm allowed to be like, this isn't what it's supposed to be, and really holding myself in that duality of both rather than trying to suppress certain feelings, because that's really when we go wrong, is we think, oh, well, I should just be grateful. So I'm just going to be grateful. I'm going to ignore these like sad emotions or this disappointment or this shame or this guilt. It's really important to feel those emotions, to process them so they're not getting stored in the body. And so I've just been giving myself full permission to feel it all. I've definitely had quite a few cries. I've spoken to Tim about my fears. I've really had this like open heart with this experience, and I'm just allowing it to look and feel exactly how it is. That's very transformational for me, because I am in the past someone who used to suppress her feelings and think, oh, well, I should just be grateful, or this is a shit situation, or like very black and white, but it's not the case. We're humans. We've got such this range of emotions. And I've just really been connecting with myself and my body. So let's get into some mindset shifts that I have kind of been choosing for this situation. And again, these are obviously specific for birth, but if you're kind of going through something where you're like, it's not how it's supposed to be, these might be really, really helpful. So the first one is, just because this isn't how I thought I was going to birth this baby doesn't mean it's not sacred, and doesn't mean it's not how it should be. I find as humans, we have this thing where we're like, okay, so A plus B equals C. 1 plus 2 equals 3. Like we like to, well, this happened and that means this. And what we don't realize is that meaning is actually, it's not the truth. A meaning is you just giving something a meaning. It's not like right or wrong, it's what you decide. And that's why people can go through very traumatic experiences, like a group of people, and all have different experiences and different traumas and different ways they see things, because they're putting their own meaning on it. So I'm really not putting, firstly, a negative meaning on having a cesarean, which I definitely picked up because it wasn't normalized to me and no one I knew had one. I definitely had some judgment, not to others, but to myself. I think there is a lot of expectations, and I feel like with cesareans, well, in my world, there was a lot of stigma around it, which I've had to really kind of be like, where did I pick this up? So that has been really good, because again, the meaning is only what you make it mean. So really kind of changing the meaning on what this means for me and my family and my baby, and really being like, no, this actually gets to be really beautiful and really, really sacred. And I get to make the experience my own, like just because I didn't have a lot of control over it, if it gets to be vaginal birth or a cesarean, like there are still elements I can pick and choose. Number 2, I didn't get to choose this, but I do get to choose how I respond. Again, I'm not in control of so much of my life, but I do get to be in control of how I show up during this time. And I think that's anyone. I truly believe I really don't care about the person you are when everything's like going well and you're conquering your goals and everything's fine and dandy. It's like, who are you when things aren't going well? Because that's who you are at your core, and that's who you should be most proud of like, okay, when things are going to shit, how do you show up for yourself and others, and how do you respond and how do you react? And again, I truly believe everything happens for a reason, whether to teach us lessons, to teach us about ourselves, to expand us and put us into growth. And I do feel like this is such growth for me. Like I said before, processing the duality, holding disappointment while holding gratitude. And again, old Georgie, that would have been really hard for her. So witnessing myself through this and how I'm dealing with it and how I'm still showing up and how I'm moving forward has been very healing. And I think if you can be someone who shows up for yourself and still regulates your emotions and feels your emotions and doesn't let things completely derail you, like they're allowed to shake you, you're allowed to wobble, but not letting things completely derail you, that is such a beautiful life skill. And that's such a beautiful character building skills. So that's something also I've been leaning into. It's like, well, who do I want to be through this? The next one is really understanding that this is probably about the hospital bed rest, but it's like, this is how it's meant to be for whatever reason. Whether that's I start bleeding early and I do have to get emergency C-section, like being in the hospital, and that saves baby's life. Whether that's me being on bed rest in the hospital is actually what I really need for my nervous system or my body to be resting before a major surgery. And again, really trusting, you guys know when I teach surrender within manifestation, it's we are the child and the universe is the parent. So as the child, sometimes we can't understand why our parents are picking certain things and doing things a certain way because we only have the level and knowledge and understanding of a child. But really trusting that even though I can't see the outcome and I don't know what's going to happen, it's what's best. And surrendering to it and actually being like, it's actually going to be really, really good for whatever reason, even though I can't see it. The next one is really making the mindset shift of, even though it's a surgical birth, I can still deeply connect with my baby and have a really beautiful experience. Can still have music playing in the theater that I've been playing to her the whole time. I can still, something I've actually been kind of been doing, but I want to do more too, is actually talking to her and explaining to her that this is what's going to happen in our birth. And then you're going to meet mummy, and talking to her, because she understands, she feels, she's this beautiful living being inside me, and she is going to respond to my nervous system. So really kind of like role modeling already, even though she's still in the womb, of regulating my nervous system, talking to her, explaining to her what's going to happen, explaining it's still going to be magical and sacred. And then just some tools that I've been using that might be helpful for you guys is I am going to, when it gets a bit close to the cesarean, I'm going to basically write a letter of the grief and the disappointment and the shame, the guilt, anything that comes up, and really write it down of like, I feel really fucking disappointed that this happened. And I'm feeling so much guilt that I'm not with Ivy, and I'm going to get all the feelings out. I love journaling and writing letters, and really just like what I'm letting go of, the emotions, the heaviness, the feelings. I'm going to write that out, and then I'm going to burn that. I'm going to do like a beautiful letting go burning ceremony. And I've done this at different stages in my life, and it really makes a difference. Like if you haven't tried this ritual, honestly do it. And then you can also do some journaling on reframing how magical the cesarean birth is going to be. The next tool I would say is I have been doing now the meditation and the visualization of, we actually have a C-section birth meditation. So we have just a normal pregnancy meditation that I was doing before this, but now I'm switching to the C-section meditation. And again, it's just beautiful. It's just priming your body. It's just getting your nervous system ready and okay. It really has made me feel so much better. And I think when you have time, like we're so adaptable. Humans are so adaptable. And when you have time to process your emotions, and when you let them come up and you feel them and then you release them, you really can get through anything. You really can deal with anything, but it's about taking that time. And so that meditation is just, it's been really, really amazing. And I'm going to do that every single day to make sure and really envision having such an amazing experience. I have been doing some like affirmations, and they're just like, I trust that this path is unfolding perfectly. I trust my body and baby is going to be here and it's going to be beautiful. I'm allowed to grieve and still be grateful. My birth is still going to be so amazing in this direction, kind of thing. This gets to still be such an empowering experience. Something else that has been really helping is reading empowering C-section stories. So, or like asking people. I am seeing Sarah from Female Physio Co. in the Gold Coast. She has a really big online presence. You can check out her Instagram. And she had a really empowering C-section. And Caitlin, the dietitian in the same office, she also had a really empowering C-section, and they were telling me about it. And it just made me feel so happy because, like I said, I had only really known people who had emergency ones, and obviously not knowing and not processing, it would come with a lot of emotions. And so it was just really beautiful to hear someone being like, no, it was the most beautiful one. And also talking to people who I've had people slide in my DMs and be like, I had a natural vaginal birth and then I had placenta previa and I had to have a C-section. And honestly, 10 out of 10, great experience. It's still going to be so magical. There's pros and cons to both. So yeah, just really. And also Australian Birth Stories, they have a podcast. And Sarah, she also has a book that is really, really great. So highly recommend just like kind of immersing yourself in positive stories of what you're trying to move through. So for me, it's having a cesarean. And yeah, so I'm currently 33 weeks as I'm recording this. And I do just feel really grateful that I've had this time to process this. I feel really grateful that I have such amazing support by Tim, my family, my doctors, you guys. And again, even though this wasn't how I thought it would be, and even though there has been like roadblocks and certain things, this is beautiful. This is what life is. It's a journey. We're not we're not meant to have just nothing happen all the time, because these are the moments, like I said, where you lock in and you practice what you preach and you show up as who you want to be. And it's really been such a growth moment for me. And I truly believe the work I'm doing now with processing this will just be so amazing postpartum. So I'm not having to deal with, not that I'm saying I could still have certain things that happen, but processing the emotions now. So I'm not dealing with postpartum birth trauma. And there's so many emotions with postpartum. I'm going to get them. But I think it's really important to talk about this. And like I said, I think it's really important to talk about elective C-sections because there definitely is so much stigma around them, and it can feel isolating and it can feel really disappointing. There can be so many feelings involved. So I just really wanted to share with you guys and be raw and honest and vulnerable and all the things. That is a real life update with George. Of course, I will be updating with you how it all went, what actually went down, who knows. But I really am locking into that beautiful C-section meditation and visualizing how I want it to go while also having space for baby girl to come in how she wants to come in. Bye for now.